start off with some charts and technical things here. Okay, so first we'll talk about like undernourishment, malnutrition, because that's kind of what we're going to talk about when we talk about food security, food scarcity, those kind of things. So currently this is an older statistic, but it's kind of still prevalent today. It's just kind of been going. It just increased actually a little bit. So according to the USDA right now, a little over 800 million people are malnourished. It's like around 1 in 9 people are starving. And personally, that's like one of my things that really gets to me, like hungry people. If you're, it's like really, gets to you. You can't really lead a substantial lifestyle if you're malnourished. So our largest area is Southern Asia. That's your India, Nepal, Bhutan, those areas, and they tend to be heavily populated, which I think is one of the reasons. So, and they're also less industrialized. Then we have sub-Saharan Africa. The land there is pretty arid, so that's a huge reason anyway. It's not really fertile for crop growing, and it's very heavily populated as well. And then you have Eastern Asia, which is like Iraq and Kuwait and those areas where the soil is also really infertile and heavily populated. So you kind of see a resemblance of all these areas. They're less industrialized, really populated, and have less fertile soils. Just to get a different perspective in a geographical format, your red areas are the really undernourished spots. So you see over here in India, middle of Africa, and then some of South America. The most food secure places are actually the U.S. and Australia. We can talk about why later. So when we're talking about this, some of the concerns to keep in mind are polluted and contaminated soils, so it makes farming kind of difficult because those pollutants can be bioavailable and they can come into the plant and uptake in, and then you're eating a contaminated food source, so kind of it's counterintuitive. Your depleted soils, those are your soils that are not really fertile, so crops aren't really going to do well. Air quality too, a lot of areas that are have a lot of air pollution, that soot and emissions can dissipate onto your soil and then contaminate the soil as well. And then lack of healthy food options. You can have food, but a lot of the food that we have available to us is not really nutritious and doesn't have the essential vitamins for nutrition, for us to be nutritional beings. So it can lead to malnutrition and also obesity, which is like the opposite of what we're talking about, but it can be just as detrimental as being malnourished to your health, and starvation. So getting into food security, what is it? The technical term, the availability and adequate access to all people at all times to sufficient, safe, nutritious food to maintain a healthy and active lifestyle. Okay. So basically, first I want to point out the words safe and nutritious, because even if you have available food, it needs to be safe, meaning not contaminated, because that's just also counterintuitive. If you're eating contaminated food, it's really just counterintuitive and nutritious as well. So there's 4 elements to food security. Availability, so you have to have persistent and consistent availability to food, and you have to be able to access it as well through trade, barter, just selling. It has to be accessible. The utilization comes into factor. You have to be able to utilize the food in a safe and healthy way through refrigeration or preservation, and it has to be stable, so it has to be consistent. Some of the factors that go along with this is population growth. So our population in the beginning was like kind of consistently going up. We had plagues, we had certain things where they kind of just wiped out people, so they could, our life expectancy was a lot lower, so it kind of balanced out. Now with modern medicine and an older death rate, or anyway, our population has increased tremendously over the past 120 years to 1.6 million to around, we're almost like just under 7 billion right now. So with all of these modern technologies, our population is increasing. And that doesn't mean we can't feed everybody, but we just have to keep in mind to do it like sustainably. Dietary changes, that has changed as well, very much. Our meat and dairy intake is a lot higher than it used to be. Or I think around like 400 calories. The average person, 400 calories a day is from livestock. So with that increasing, the cost of livestock and dairy has gone up, as well as grain, because unfortunately a lot of the livestock is fed grain and not grass fed, so that also rises the cost. Distribution. A lot of food isn't evenly or fairly distributed. It goes where the money is. So areas that have a higher capita per income will, be distributed food more frequently. Climate change can lead to arid soils. Since the Industrial Revolution, which is about 120 years ago, our Earth has warmed by like 3%. So that has a lot of impact on our land. And water scarcity. This is a big factor with agriculture. We use it a lot. And just for perspective, for 1 kilogram of beef, it's 16,000 liters of water that is used. And 1 kilogram of wheat, I think it's like 1,500 liters. And to compare it to mushrooms, 1 kilogram of mushroom only uses 1 to 2 liters of water. So it's really awesome. They're like the water preservers. They're great. And power, greed, profit. Oh, decrease in farmers. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. It's kind of just a thing that's happening with college and learning more in an academic way. A lot of people aren't going into the farming industry, so in developed areas, less than 2% of people are farming, so that can have an effect on our food supply. And this is a concept I just want to briefly go over, because it is kind of parallel with food security, environmental justice. And so what it is, regardless of your person, your race, your income, your origin, you should have the fair treatment of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. And unfortunately, we don't see this really happening. A lot of low-income housing is based around areas of heavy traffic, factories, just like industrialization. So this, in less green space, so this causes like kind of an effect on overall health and the food supply that is able to be subjected to the area. So we see more environmental justice, I think, than we do injustice and justice. So a good example I like to use is from my hometown in southwest Detroit. It's heavy Hispanic community and also low income, and we have a huge marathon oil refinery right there. And a recent study just exposed that 80% of people have asthma in those areas. So the exposure to environmental harms also has an impact on your food supply and what can actually be grown in those areas. Yeah, justice, carrots. So they're, how they're related. They're parallel social movements. They both are movements like at the community level, and they share the same goals. They're both like, striving for maintaining health, a stable and healthy lifestyle, your productivity, your environmental state, the state of like where you live. You are what you're subjected to. So the less green space you have, kind of, we know that nature makes us feel good, right? When we're around nature, we feel good, and it makes us like hopeful. So if you're just around, industries all the time, it lowers your overall social well-being. Okay, so before we go into the sustainable farming part, I kind of want to bring up just like agriculture in the beginning. So after hunting and gathering, and man kind of advanced, was like, hey, we can kind of like do this on our own. And and the rise of like ancient civilizations. They built their cities and their civilizations around like main irrigation ways. This is the Tigris and Euphrates River. And this made the land really fertile, and it allowed for easy irrigation. But after, they developed the plow and were tilling the soil, and they were just constantly growing, not really keeping in mind how they were like treating the soil. So this was kind of like the demise of ancient civilizations, was a lack of like understanding soil and how they were abusing it. If you overtill, you're breaking up all the roots that keep the soil together and tenacious. And I mean, that's what's happened with the Dust Bowl. If anyone's familiar, when you learn about the Dust Bowl, it's just over plowing, and it breaks up the top surface of the soil and just causes a huge dust storm. And that was like the cause of the Great Depression, and a lot of factors. So it's really important to know your soil. So around 500 BC, the Greeks and the Romans were like, okay, let's see what's going on. Majority of our soil is unfertile and we can't really survive anymore. So they started looking into soil science and fertilizers and stuff like that. And just really quick overview of soil itself. It's basically made up of organic matter, mineral byproducts, and rock weathering. And it's really important to have like a good balance of all of these things together. You want to have good decomposition rate, so your biota needs to be really healthy. Your organic matter here at the top, that's where all your decomposition is happening. So it's good, to compost, to bring like those things back and the nutrients back and recycle them. So just a little quick thing, we could talk about soil I took a whole class on soil science and it was very intense. There's so much to do with soil that you wouldn't think, but so getting back to agriculture and the environment. So 80% of deforestation is caused from agriculture. The number one leading cause of deforestation is actually logging. But with agriculture, we're making areas for our crops, and we're depleting the forest, and that has a big effect on habitat depletion. Another one, soil degradation. With agriculture, if you don't sustainably grow your crops, you can really degrade the soil and deplete its nutrients. Water scarcity, we talked about that, how much water it takes to grow crops these days. It's a lot. So if you're not replenishing it, it can have an effect on our water. And then pesticides, fertilizers, pollution, all that stuff, pesticides. Most of our agriculture is industrialized, so using a lot of pesticides, it's pretty prevalent, and they move through the environment heavily. We're not really going to talk about it too much, but just so you can see like how pesticides move through our earth. They can volatilize straight from the soil. They're just like, volatilization going up into the air. Wind erosion, just from being sprayed on the plant and then the wind dispersing it throughout. Photodegradation, this is the breakdown of the chemical pesticide by light, and only chemicals that absorb light can be photodegraded. They can also run off. They can be broken down by microbiota, which is really cool. They can leach into our groundwater. Probably heard about algal blooms. That's from the leaching of pesticides in the groundwater. And then they can also be uptaken by the plant, which is really bad because then you're eating contaminated plants. So, bringing all this together, we're going to talk about systems thinking. To solve something, it's really important to understand that everything kind of works as a system. So a system is just comprised of components, and those components interact together and form the overall system. So we have components interacting, there's inputs, there's outputs, there's boundaries that we create to understand a system. And then there can also be a hierarchy within systems, like the food chain, for example. You have that whole hierarchy of systems. So this is really helpful when you're trying to, when you have a goal in life and you're trying to get it out there and known. And if you start learning that everything kind of operates as a system and change your viewpoint into systematic thinking, you can kind of push those goals out there a little bit easier. So just different ways of applying systems thinking. You can have relational diagrams, or organograms is like a hierarchy, kind of like a flow chart. A flow chart's my favorite. If I'm ever just like stalled and I'm like can't figure out like how to put everything in my brain out there, it's good to like kind of sit down and make a flow chart and just think about it and see how all those things interact with each other. Because if you change one thing in a system, the other thing is going to change. So it all is very, interconnected. So there's systems language. We use this a lot in ecology. There's computer science language, all of that. So that's another form of systems thinking. So yeah, flowgrams are my favorite though. They really help when you're trying to put things into play. So just an example, we have the system lovely mushroom here. So its components, it's composed of cells, hyphae, mycelium, has its own digestive system at work. So we have the inputs and outputs, and kind of this is how like the mushroom itself kind of just like flows. It's just an example of like a rich picture. So systems analysis, kind of like analyzing the system, or like talk about food scarcity a little bit and how to like analyze it. So we have like the drivers. So what drives us to food scarcity? I should probably put security there. We'll do food security, okay? We want food to be secure, right? So our drivers would be food production, right? What drives us to be food secure? Health, overall health, right? So, I'm sorry, this is a little bit, I gotta think about this for a second. So what drives us to be food secure is just survival, and our pressures are food production. We're pressured to just pump out food to feed people so we can sustain humanity. The overall state, that's like the overall state of the situation. Impacts, different things that impact food security, and then their responses. So things that, how we respond to the system through like food, drives, soup kitchens, different things like that. Those are like how we respond to these situations. Applying it. So this is kind of a good way to think about applying your ideas. So you come up with a design, you implement implementation. So you kind of implant it, see it, you test it, see how it works, document it, evaluate it, analyze it, and if it doesn't work the first time, you can just keep going over, change something in that system, change a component in that system, and see how that works. So you can keep on changing different things in your system and kind of see how they interact with one another until you finally get a solution. So going into sustainable farming, so it's not the fact that we can't feed everybody. I mean, by 2050, we're supposed to like have like 9 billion people on the planet. It's not really the fact that we can't feed all of those people, it's how we do it. So if you're not replenishing as much as you're taking away, then you're not going to be able to, feed everybody. So you have to keep future generations in mind when you're doing this. So it's important to understand the relationships between organisms and the environment, just overall ecology, like keep those things in mind when you're farming. Keep in mind soil, like we talked about, soil health is a really big impact on our food supply. Energy, what kind of energy you're using. Maybe you look into solar. Your air, not putting too many emissions out into the air when you're farming. A lot of our farming is industrialized, unfortunately, and heavy machinery is used and polluting the air quite a bit. Your water, where you're getting your water from and how you're recycling it is a good thing to think about. There's rain barrels, rain catchers, and then kind of putting it to a sustainable cycle. And then different nutrients, lowering your amount of fertilizers and pesticides for natural nutrients. So how we can do it, understanding that it is a system. Everything's a system. So get a holistic viewpoint of your farming techniques. And quality, not quantity. Unfortunately, the majority of food is thrown away. Supermarkets have a very high rate of what they won't take in and what they will. So they require high shelf life, no blemishes, they have to be big, and that's not always the best. Utilize reusable energy. We talk about solar, wind, natural and renewable resources. This is a big thing. Kind of think about like how you're growing and what you're growing with. Integrating livestock and crops. That's a really cool one. I worked on this hops farm in Oregon, and they had a really cool system going where hops tend to grow on a bunch. They bunch up at the bottom, and that keeps it from growing higher. So they would let the goats and the sheep inside of the crop, and they would eat the bottom and then fertilize it with their droppings. So it was a really cool system they had going on. Reduce and eliminate tillage. This doesn't really have to do with mushroom farming so much, but I know there's a lot of different farming going on, so it's just good to talk about. And eliminate chemical pesticides. There's a lot of things these days. 2018, there's a lot of new ways to reduce your chemical pesticides in agroforestry, which is implementing like other plants around your crops to get like just a good biodiversity going. So sustainable mushroom farming, how does this tie into food security? It's really an awesome practice, especially in areas of like low industrialization, because it can be done in a really low tech manner. So it uses pretty much water, air, and very little of your very little resources that you need for mushroom farming. A lot of mushrooms that are farmed are like saprobes, which that means they break down and they decompose carbon, which is a lot of your agricultural waste. So you can actually collect agricultural waste from local farmers in the area and utilize it as your substrate. And then after they flush, you can the product is then biodegradable and compostable, which leads to nutrient recycling. It takes little maintenance and little machinery. All of this can be done by hand. Just depends on how big you want to make it, but this is why it's really good on the community and low industrialized areas. You can do it in like any area, urban, semi-urban, rural, because they can be grown inside. You really can grow mushrooms anywhere in a great container. So indoor production, that has a little impact on our land. We're not really affecting the land so much. Low emissions, and the space to yield ratio is awesome. Vertical farming right here, as you can see, is really really helpful to increasing your yield to space. So just understanding the life cycle of a mushroom in general and how this works. So you have your spores, and well, if you start from we'll go through it. So the spores germinate, creates mycelium, little hyphae, and then mycelium is just like a bunch of hyphae, and then your little pinheads, your primordia, and then you go into your mature mushroom, and then you will harvest. And the digestive system of the mushroom, this is why we can grow them on agricultural waste, because they have an external digestive system that secrete enzymes from the hyphal tip here. This is like your mycelium. I don't know how familiar everybody is with mushroom life cycle, but so they secrete enzymes externally that will break down that agricultural waste, and that's really an awesome thing because you're taking a waste product and giving it life again. So that's that, and to put it back into like a systems thinking viewpoint, so our inputs, you have water, you have agricultural waste first, right? Then we have mycelium. We have water, air. Those are some of our inputs into the system. The process, the digestive process, the mushroom goes through to digest the agricultural waste, and then the outputs should be could be food, medicine, compost, and then it kind of like recycles back. So it can be quite sustainable if you do it in a right way, in a sustainable way. So it's just another little chart I made just to show like the flow of how sustainable mushroom farming goes. You can use, you don't always have to sterilize, you can pasteurize, especially in low-tech areas. So it is a pretty self-sustaining system. You collect the agricultural waste, and it takes just a little bit, just time and patience pretty much. So you collect your agricultural waste, you add water, you pasteurize it, inoculate it, time, and pretty much all your natural resources is just light, water, and air. So it's using little machinery and little resources. So why we're really here today is like how we can apply this into the real world. So think systems, go through systems thinking. Locate an area that's affected by food scarcity, kind of look around your hometown and like check things out, different organizations and stuff that are affected by food scarcity, and kind of talk to the community, educate the community on this topic, and get them interested. Hold a workshop, do stuff like that. Then you should look around like what's growing in the area, where you can get your agricultural waste from, and then about obtaining a space. You don't need much space for mushroom cultivation, so it could be indoor, it could be outdoor applications. Building your framework, and then choosing your mushroom that you want to grow, and this can be based on a bunch of different factors like climate, altitude, your local conditions, and the nutritional needs. So it's really good to do this at the community level. It's good to start small, in small communities, in small areas all around, because overall that will create a larger impact. The impact that can have on individuals and communities. I like this story. This is Divya. She's known as the Mushroom Lady of Uttarakhand in a small village in India. And she left her village and went to study at a university. And she ended up coming back because there were a lot of issues and problems with food security in her area. And she started mushroom farming. And you can see like what it does to a community. It brings like trust, hope. It builds like a framework and friendship, as well as like mental health and physical health. So nutritional impact that sustainable mushroom farming can have. They're loaded with protein, essential amino acids, beta carotenes, and a lot of essential vitamins. So they're really good to grow in areas where they lack these components in other food that they grow. Environmental impact. Because of the low machinery use, lower emissions, lower energy use, we're saving on all of those aspects. They're compostable, allowing the soil to become more nutritious. Nutrient recycling, that's what they do. They're decomposers. So they upcycle nutrients into our environment. Overall balancing the ecosystems. You can also use them for remediation, and that's a whole other topic, but you can remediate pollutants in the environment. Waste reduction. While you're taking those agricultural wastes, you're actually utilizing them and reducing the waste that agriculture produces, which is overall sustainable. Economic impact. Mushrooms kind of have a low initial investment in the beginning, then they self-sustain themselves. So it really doesn't cost much to start growing mushrooms initially. It's a good opportunity for minority income in a lot of industrialized areas, less industrialized areas. Women, the main farmers are men, so women are they take care of the home and do things to sustain the house, which in that time they could be mushroom farming. So it gives a good opportunity for minorities to produce their own income and provide food for their community. Reducing poverty and job opportunities, and it's pretty profitable. There's a study I was reading about in Bangladesh. They're working on sustainable mushroom farming in small communities, and they compared it to wheat and rice profits, and it just hits almost the same. So it can be quite profitable. And just the overall impact on food security, it allows for a consistent food supply year-round. You can grow mushrooms year-round if you have the right conditions. They're highly nutritious. They allow protein to be an area. A lot of food insecure places don't have a lot of livestock, so they lack protein. And this is a really good way to get protein into your food source. They're compostable, so you can compost them in other parts of soil where you're growing in other crops, and this allows for soil fertility for other agricultural purposes as well. And they can be grown at home for just your family or on a small scale community level. So overall, you can kind of like utilize mushroom farming for personal or community health. And I think that's it. I think that is it. Sources, stuff like that. Thanks, everybody. I'm still working on my public speaking, so sorry for the out there. Any questions or anything? Are we good?
Can you talk more about what it is that you do in Detroit? Like how you apply these?
Yeah, so right now we're working on our first freight container and just getting it equipped and up and running. But outside of that, I hold workshops. I do a lot of stuff with micro-remediation. We do stuff like that, implementing filtration systems just in our community. And I hold cultivation workshops as well, just teaching people how to grow mushrooms just right at home. I just did a recent one where people brought just like a recycled Tupperware, and we filled it with coffee grounds and cardboard, two things that you readily have at home, and inoculated it. And so just, kind of educating the community on mushrooms and their...
The micro-remediation workshops that you're doing, are those directly with, like...
Yeah, there's different organizations. Yeah, so I did one with Pops Packing. That's like a place in Hamtramck that does different environmental stuff. So yeah, it's usually with organizations.
Other,
already.
like bigger organizations.
Absolutely, yeah. We
Plus
did one
the
with
community work.
Yeah, exactly. We did one with the Greening of Detroit. Just like studies with brownfields, So yeah, it is usually with another organization that just lets us come and run these courses. Because it is still, it's still kind of a newer thing, and we know that it works like on a tabletop, right? Like in a lab. Yeah. We know it works, but it hasn't really been put into play on a large scale basis. So that's kind of what we're working on to see if it works on a large scale, like actually on a brownfield that has underground storage tank leaking oil for 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the projects that I'm working on and getting things going, along with the whole educating community on mushroom growing and how you can just do it right at home, cultivating.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you are working on like the small scale or like grassroots capacity as well as the large scale.
Yeah.
Have you found that there's like kind of a blindness, like being able to? I feel like not a lot of people get to see both the grassroots and these like big planning projects.
I think the reason, like how I can do this is just, education and working in the environmental field opens me up to, those areas, those spots. Yeah, it is. I do know what you're saying. It's hard to be involved with a micro-remediation project if you don't have those set things. So it's kind of, and you don't really want to have just people working on a brownfield that aren't educated. I mean, there's a lot of hazards. You have to have your whole hazmat suit, and there's when you're working in the soil and tilling into it, and like when it's already polluted, it comes with a lot of liability and stuff like that. So it's different than just putting in like a wood chip bed to absorb. That can be done on a grassroots level for sure.
But I think it's really cool that you have access to both. You have the information of like, okay, if you're doing a large scale thing, there's all this training, there's but then take the same principles and
To the
apply it
yeah.
to like people who have never gone to school. or,
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. That is
Yeah.
kind of what I'm doing.
really-
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to utilize my education in my day job
Yeah.
for this stuff. For
Yeah.
the purpose. I'm kind of just like cheating the system so I can,
Well, that's yeah. You have to.
You have to, yeah, because working in the environmental field in general is kind of depressing and like there's a lot of like loss of hope.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
you're opened up to like what really is going on, and it's so counterintuitive a lot. I'm realizing the environmental field is just stressful. I feel like it's an oxymoron a lot of times.
Yeah.
You're trying to do one thing good, but then you're
Yeah.
messing something up over here, and that's also why you have to understand that everything is a system and think in a systematic viewpoint, because it's just a lot. So yeah, I do the mushroom stuff to bring hope back into everything.
Yeah. Well, and it's bringing all of the tools that you gain through like this, proper channel university right back to why you do it why you did that in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
You guys rock. Thank you. I feel so happy.
Another question. For the containers that you're planning to put out there, what stages of the mushroom growth will they sustain? Is it from inoculation to the last stage fruition, or?
Yeah, to fruiting. Yeah, so
they'll
from
need to have like certain equipment to sustain inoculation, or being in an aseptic environment and all that.
yeah, so there would be, the goal is to break it up into like different chambers, to have like a sterile lab space, and then to have an incubation room, and then to have a fruiting space. So they will all have their own individual like environment going on. And right now I'm kind of working on just doing the block system, so not really thinking about the fruiting so much, because I have a potential buyer to sell just the blocks too. So I can just go from the the inoculation, incubation, then get ready,
Right.
So that takes away the whole ecosystem of the fruiting chamber.
Right.
We have a local business that does that, and it's great. Saves so many headaches for a lot of people.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Where are you from?
I'm from Maine.
Oh yeah, Maine, Captainstown.
Captainstown,
Yeah.
Gardner.
So this is the thing. There's a mushroom factory. They came from the Bay Area to Detroit, and there's a mushroom factory. So they buy their blocks from Maine, Captainstown.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, well let's see. We talked
So
and
it's
like
a little more locally.
like, let's-
yeah.
well, yeah, because instead of, it decreases that competition too. My goal
Right.
really isn't to sell to restaurants.
Right.
I have a lot more that I want to do with the mushrooms
Sure.
than just selling to restaurants.
Right.
So, but I do need to have a profit.
to pay rent.
Yeah, exactly. So, and eventually I want to quit my day job. So, that's what we're working on right now. Me being the producers. I mean, me and Captainstown is great, but I'm just thinking how much you spend on
More local. Right. Even
On the
shipping
shipping
from there to
And the
there.
environmental costs. of
Right.
shipping.
Absolutely,
exactly.
like it's counterintuitive,
Right.
So
There's enough people and there's enough need that. Right. It doesn't. Yeah.
yeah, it does make sense. So yeah, that's kind of the whole
Right.
thing right now. So I'm really glad you brought that up. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I work at North School Mushroom.
Awesome.
Company, so we
Cool.
make the spawn for Captainstown.
Wow, that's all. See, I love how that.
Yeah.
Cool. You can work together, and
Yep.
yeah, that's great. So you guys produce the spawn.
We're
So
the
that's
spawn producer, yeah.
gotcha. Very good.
But
Oh, great. Well, thanks everybody for being here and sharing your
Thank
time
you.
with me.
Thank you.
We got something from this. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Nice presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah,
Well
good.
done.
Did you?
Yeah,
I'm glad
I did.
because I think I was like kind of going
we are finding in our
back and
company
forth,
that
back and forth,
specializations-
but
No, it was very good.
Yeah.
okay, good. Thank you.
Appreciate
I'm
it. A good
glad
thing.
it
Yeah.
flowed.
as far as responsibilities
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so working on the whole
Right.
like
speaking
integrating
thing.
various
Oh, no, I noted that because you're pretty good at it.
Right.
small production.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like it's becoming
Which is such a
big.
big thing.
Like
Thank you.
there's
Yeah.
more awareness
Thank you.
around what mushrooms and fungus can do.
Yeah.
That yeah, I feel like however many years ago, like you kind of
I'm
had
just
to
surprised
do
how much I
your own
remember
shop
back
Yeah.
back
because there was no one else to partner with.
like spinning out.
But now that's not where we're at anymore.
But I just
Local networks and cooperative businesses. Like,
Yeah.
I had to work on it.
Yeah.
Slide over a little bit 'cause it does go
Yeah,
there.
and it's like
But I'll fix that.
counterintuitive to like
And we got it on the
No, I don't want to look at it.
I know you don't
and
want to,
like
but eventually.
but
Yeah, no, I will.
I mean,
When I'm alone.
yeah, but like,
I just make myself.
but it's like
I mean,
Maybe
you,
for the
you,
laptop.
you do
you can survive capitalism through cooperation. Definitely
yeah.
an attainable thing.
Yeah.
Where are you living?
I live in Salt Lake City.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Drop my mug.
Pardon?
I came just
The next one.
Nice. Are you doing with herbs? Because I remember you.
I'm
were
going
doing
to
herbs.
the
Yeah.
medicinal the like entheogen integration. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
And then there's the E.
Nice.
coli.
I love that. And then in the bus.
What's it called? The mobile moon co-op.
I love that. Do you have like a thing I can?
Yeah.
I think I follow you on some. I'll find down there.
Yeah.
I'll follow you. Follow.
I follow you.
Follow.
Yeah, we see each other every now and then on the internet.
Yes. And I see your hologram. Or
Yeah. Yeah, like, totally. Like, this is my face. Ow.
yeah. Somebody was like, "Oh, you're Tess of whatever." So I'm like, "Yes, here in the flesh." You know, like you know people. Like, you know, it's weird how you can like know people from the internet, and then it's like, oh, here you are.
Yeah, so that's a, but again, it's like I have a day job as well. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
Exactly. Yeah, I know. That's. But you have like when we're creative, like beings, you have to get it out. And it's great that you're doing something to utilize that part of your brain because not a lot of the things that we do for our income can sustain us.
yeah.
I mean, that sustain us can sustain us, I guess, mentally,
Yeah.
creatively, and just
Totally,
like
it's
sanely.
different kinds of sustenance.
Yeah.
And it feels like right now, especially like resistant culture is really important. And like whatever resistance means changes.
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, what it could be like what things you're buying. And then do I like want to support local farms and buy these products? And then have like a job that doesn't actually sustain like work. But I feel like it's like really hard balance right now of like having time to work, go out the school bus and then go on plant walks and then do educational projects.
Absolutely. It's so refreshing, and refreshing and wonderful. Makes you feel like you're doing what your natural being should be doing, right?
Yeah, and I remember at the RMC in 2016, which was like right down the road at a different farm, I asked all the presenters, like, what's your favorite tool in the realm of mycology? And some people were like, 5-gallon bucket. And some people were like,
Whichever.
you know.
Yeah. We just throw it on it. Right, exactly.
Mara Penfill.
I love Mara, yeah. Good friend of mine.
She was like, a cup of mushroom tea. And
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, Mara's not a cultivator. She's just,
Yeah.
she's the mycelium that connects everybody.
I was like, then I started drinking mushroom tea and like having a meditation practice. And it felt so huge just to like take that time to be,
Oh, yeah.
to like connect with the mycelium and
Like in such a digestive way, you know, you're like feeling them in all senses coming into you, yeah. It's great.
yeah.
Mushrooms are.
So yeah, I've been foraging and I wildcrafted some Fomitopsis canadensis, which is related to, it's kind of like reishi in its effects.
Right.
But it's like it found me with Canada. This is
It's awesome how they come to you, you know.
yeah.
They find you when you need them.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to do a little like tea circle.
Yeah.
Like, so people can come like drink the tea and like sit with it and process.
Oh, that's beautiful. You have it? You have it?
like that.
I'm
but
gonna
like,
do
Yeah, and I'm gonna do
Yeah.
I'm gonna do
Yeah.
mushroom. Yeah, just growing out of a big old hog.
apparently
It's a parrot.
the
No, it's delicious.
Fomentatis canadensis looks like the Amadou from
Yeah, it's like Amadou, but then it has like that garnished look, like a Reishi. So yeah, it's like it's like kind of a hook shape, and the top part looks like Amadou, and then this part looks like Reishi.
Let's see.
Yeah, I like making little lazy ones. But I just it's like my notes.
Yeah. Get a little personal with that. Cool. That's awesome. Alright. I think I'm done.
I don't know what to schedule.
I know. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I want to go to the cordyceps.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
That's not for lunch, isn't it?
No, I think it's Oh, it's that too. That's the one I wanted to go to.
That was the one.
A magic mushroom circle. That one sounded pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it was a
I'm not sure, like, what they-
remediation.
Oh, they would go with it. Really magical?
Do you find relatively stable conditions within the freight container? As far as like, temperature?
Not that far yet.
We're not that far yet.
No. We'll see.
I've also been very interested. I've got some permaculture farmer buddies that
Yeah.
want to grow mushrooms in
Yeah.
little freight container.
Yeah. Just keep in touch, and I can
Yeah.
give you some, tips and like
I'd
how
love
it
that.
goes,
Yeah.
because it's definitely.
Well, there was that company that, remember that we saw that went on a business where they were building freight containers for this, and then
Yeah.
they wanted to build you the container and then ship it to you.
They went out
So-
of business.
And they went
They
out of
stopped-
yeah.
Of course.
Right.
They stopped-
It's super expensive.
Yeah, it's so expensive, and I think the traveling with it already, having it being traveled,
Yeah.
transported, when it's already all set up,
Yeah.
things can disassemble
Right.
and then you're getting it ordered to you, all fucked up, and then you just spent 30 grand on it, so it's
Other than
like.
this, like the AC and humidifier
Yeah.
in there.
So they had some sort of stable system.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I do. I mean, they do. Fungi farms or great farms.
Yeah.
They do like greens and stuff,
Yeah.
which don't need as much of a, temperate climate, but or humid environment. But they still are growing things really prevalent in there. So it's all about they just.
And they're doing the aquaponics a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
with
yeah.
Shells.
Yep.
Yep.
So it's a little bit different, but like I said, I'm just kind of trying to right now do the blocks.
Yeah.
So it won't be so much of keeping a.
It's good to specialize and then diversify.
Yeah.
I'm like shell shocked from diversifying and now specializing.
Right. Yeah. So, I'm not sure how we're going to like a fruiting chamber as to
Yeah.
where
It's
making it more of a
whole
lab.
mix.
Making it lab and incubation, which is a lot easier, I think, than a container.
Yeah.
So, you have to control. So there's so much temperature and humidity control in fruiting.
Yep. And they're different. And it's just,
Okay.
yeah, it definitely feels like, because I do all three,
I'm
and
gonna go to
it
that
feels like
magic.
different jobs. No?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
I
complete.
do spawn
Looks like
production,
it's
block
gonna
creation,
work.
and and it's
completely different
Yeah.
knowledge too.
Also-
Yeah.
Will's, I think, just is starting.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
10:30, but
Where's that at?
I don't know. I'm going to
Oh,
get
sorry.
it.
I'll figure it out. I gotta ask them. I'm really gonna talk to you.
I'm gonna.
Can I talk to you later about like pricing and like stuff like that? About how you guys like
What I know, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm mostly back with house.
Okay.
But,
like relatively what a block goes for. If you're in a
we don't typically sell the block because we don't want to yeah. Okay.
I just, we talked about, yeah, I'm sorry, there was a lot. Okay, you're,
Yeah.